Back to work we go. Round number 6. Kevin Johnson in command of this fight. Neither fighter's been down. Neither fighter has been cut. Kevin Johnson controlled the pace of this fight early on with the jab. We're seeing that in evidence again as he goes back to it. And it is a pretty jab. It's a weapon he can definitely use and count on to maybe further his career. Almost metronomically beaten a drum underneath the eyes of Jermell Barnes. Barnes had his moments in round number 5. Probably not enough to win the round, but at least he made a statement that he's here.
Well, Kevin bringing his hand, he's carrying that left hand really low. And against Barnes, he's not in any danger. But as he's starting to step up and start fighting against the taller heavyweights, he's going to have trouble. You got to pick that end up and defend himself because he's going to get right hand over the top.
Barnes facing so many disadvantages in this fight. Power, reach, maybe just a simple way to put it is overall talent. You get that sparring partner or loser's mentality when you lose fight after fight after fight, as he did in that stretch, losing 8 out of 10, which is 2 draws. But bravely fighting on here, trying to take this thing in close. And while he's taking 4 or 5 punches to try and wind up and throw one, we'll see if he can put himself back into this thing.
So he's throwing an overhand right, which you need to get in position and throw a straight right. And you have a better chance of landing that. When a man is leaning over like that, you don't want to throw it over. You want to throw it straight. Let him lean into it more.
Good 1-2 combination that time. The last punch of that flurry was blocked by Barnes, but the first couple got home. And now he's finding a sweet spot on the head of Jermell Barnes, who continues to try and come forward. Pushes Johnson off. Trying to bull him against the ropes now. Johnson goes back to that sort of embarrassing slapping tactic that he had to get the crowd against him in round number 4.
Well, you don't have short punches, so what happens when the guy gets too close? He throws slaps. Instead of throwing short hooks and body shots, he just throws slaps. He just slap the guy on the side of the head and his ear, stuff like that. But if he throw good, crisp, short punches and turn his shoulder, would get some results.
Starting to show some ability to infight is Kevin Johnson. He's been keeping his distance with that jab, but now getting in close and getting the better of it. 10 seconds to go here in round number 6. Kevin Johnson coming on, rocking Jermell Barnes. Quality finish to round number 6 for Kevin Johnson. He started to put together some combinations and do some of the things that you've been advocating throughout this fight, Glenn Johnson, if he's going to be a guy that gets the attention of the fans and gets boxing fans excited about the fact that he's unbeaten.
Well, here at the end of the round, starting to get excited here. He's throwing combination. There's some exchanges. Barnes is trying, and he's landing a few punches here and there. And Kevin Johnson, no doubt the most talented guy in the ring, but we just would want more out of him. We want that closing kind of action out of him to close the show, and that's going to make the difference between a boring Kevin Johnson and an exciting Kevin Johnson.
Here's round number 7. Ref brings them together. Center of the ring, Kevin Johnson with an onslaught at the tail end of round number 6. He's won every round on my scorecards. I would imagine most of the judges have it the same way. Jermell Barnes showing some courage in this fight, and every now and then with the occasional flurry, but not enough to stop this overwhelming onslaught that we've seen from Kevin Johnson. The jab has come back. It's returned to be his most effective weapon, and it's starting to put things together in combination now, Glenn.
Yeah, this part of the fight, you have a slow guy in front of him. You could basically tell every movement he's going to make. You know, Barnes is not a difficult guy to figure out what his movements are, what he's going to do. So you could definitely put the punches and the combinations together. He's using a great jab. He's stepping around him nicely. He's doing everything that he's supposed to do except putting the combination together and putting a solid right hand behind that wonderful jab that he's using so well.
Barnes plodding forward and lands a right hand that time as Kevin Johnson relaxed. This one you think Barnes is out of it. He comes up with something that changes your mind a little bit. Attention getter with that right hand. It's been too few and far between for Barnes, but he presses forward now and might have caught Kevin Johnson trying to grab a little bit of rest here in round number 7. Good right hand that time, and all of those punches scored against Jermell Barnes. Kevin Johnson with the better footwork, maneuvers himself well around the ring, and my goodness, just beaten out of tune on the face of Jermell Barnes there. That was a nice series of 3 consecutive jabs.
It was nice, but one thing was missing. Can you guess what that was?
The right hand to follow.
Thank you.
Seems simple, the 1-2. You wonder how a guy can forget about such a simple tactic and fundamental. Now he comes with the right hand. The right hand didn't have much power on it, but you can see Jermell Barnes might have to pull up to the gas pump. He's getting a little tired, if he wasn't already. Johnson now against the ropes. He did some effective work there earlier in this fight. Neither fighter's hit the canvas yet. Neither fighter cut. Kevin Johnson has been somewhat of a distance fighter so far in his career, and he's headed in that direction right now as we close in on 20 seconds to go in round number 7. Both fighters showing signs of fatigue now, Glenn, as we head towards the 8th and final.
Well, Barnes is really asking to get out of here, but he's not putting it together.
Another example of a round where Kevin Johnson controlled the pace, dictated the action, showed us that good jab, and yet failed to be a crowd pleaser.
Yeah, well, you know, it's exciting to throw jabs, and it's nice, but I feel just all the people want to see more stuff. They want to see the big right hand, and listen, Mike Tyson was not the most polished fighter, but one thing he had was the big punch.
Well, here's some of the good work of Kevin Johnson. He flashed that jab. And now Barnes came back. That was his big right hand that he got in there in round 7. That was probably the only telling blow he threw in that particular round.
Well, that's what happens when you get close enough to throw a right hand over that shoulder like I was talking about.
Good luck, guys. Last round. Let's start.
And he touched gloves for the 8th and final. Jermell Barnes would need a knockout to win this fight. As we said, he developed that mentality after a while where you're so accustomed to losing. It becomes problematical unto itself, both from a mental and a physical standpoint. Doesn't appear to have the physical skills to beat this guy. And you know that Kevin Johnson could probably take this round off, just circle around the ring, keep his distance, and have a clear-cut victory. It's interesting. It's hard to criticize, and sometimes you'll hear announcers do this, and fans are also guilty of it. Guy's winning the fight. He's clearly winning every round, and yet we find reasons to criticize the fighter and his performance. Kevin Johnson has given a nice display tonight, and yet somehow he leaves you feeling like there's something missing. You're looking for more.
Well, the reason why you see that happening is because you're looking at where the guy is right now and where you want to see him in the future, and you know what he's doing now is not enough to get to that place, and he seemed content with where we are instead of trying to make reasons or create more for to please the audience and to improve himself, and that's the reason why you see unsatisfied people around that have an opinion, they criticize, and they're not happy, they're not satisfied with your performance.
And you've been through it, Glenn Johnson. If you're going to climb the ladder of success in a very difficult sport, and let's face it, boxing is extremely unforgiving, you can't necessarily get by just toying with guys that are of lesser ability. Now, he's trying to come on here, and to his credit, maybe finish with a little bit of a statement. Jamel Barnes is a guy that's there to be had, you would have to say, as brave as he's been in this performance, to hang in there through the better part of 8 rounds. He's somebody that, as you start to climb the ladder of success in the heavyweight division, you're going to be looking at a whole different picture. Minute to go here in the 8th and final.
Well, you know, Kevin is definitely the better of the 2 fighters in the ring. You want to see him separate himself, and you want him to be exciting, so he's somebody you want to see again. Now, you want to see a beautiful job, Kevin Johnson can do that. But if you want the closing on the show, then you're going to have some question about Kevin Johnson.
Crowd giving him the business. They can't be disappointed with Jamel Barnes' performance. He did everything he possibly could do in this fight. Just didn't have the skill to compete with Kevin Johnson, who will move to 17-0. But will he move the hearts of the fans that he was trying to impress here tonight?